My name is Olivia Reed, and I live in a modest condo on the north side of Chicago. 32, single, and according to my family, a competent tech consultant. That's the public persona anyway, a carefully constructed facade. Last Sunday, I had brunch with my brothers, Gavin and Ethan. They were discussing their upcoming presentation for a massive government contract. Sterling Ventures, their father's company, was struggling. Olivia, Gavin said condescendingly, maybe you could look over our slides, offer some suggestions. I smiled, a practiced, polite smile. Of course, I said, because they had no idea. They had no clue that the very contract they were desperately chasing was already mine. And the business they were running into the ground, I owned it too, 4 years ago, the boardroom, Sterling Ventures. That day. The day my life fractured and my secret empire began. Gavin, his face flushed, practically spitting venom, accused me of being too ambitious. Ethan, ever the peacemaker, echoed the sentiment, adding unrealistic expectations. My father. He sat at the head of the table, his face etched with a weariness that crushed me. He didn't defend me. He didn't fight for my ideas. He'd chosen peace over progress. He'd chosen his sons. Olivia, he said softly, his voice a plea. We can't always get what we want. That was the moment I decided they wouldn't know, that they wouldn't see the storm I was about to unleash. I walked out of that meeting with my head held high, but inside the fire had been lit. I would build something they could never comprehend. The first few months were brutal. I scraped by, freelancing, taking odd jobs, but I was also building. Coding late into the night, fueled by black coffee and the burning need for validation. I secured a small loan, a few investors, and Apex Innovations was born. My first major contract, a cybersecurity solution for a small financial firm. I secured it through a pitch that blew their minds. Then another, then another. Slowly, cautiously, Apex began to grow. Revenue soared. We hit our first million in ARR within a year. I kept it all hidden. Gavin and Ethan, meanwhile, continued to mismanage Sterling Ventures. They were focused on legacy systems while the market was racing forward. They kept calling me, asking for advice. Olivia, we need your expertise, they'd say. I'd offer them a few generic tips, never revealing the truth. The irony was exquisite. Their desperation, their ignorance was my fuel. Apex now boasts a valuation of $3 billion, with contracts in defense, finance, and healthcare. We're consistently outperforming our competitors, using cutting-edge AI and machine learning to stay ahead of the curve. Gavin and Ethan still think I'm just a consultant. This upcoming industry conference. It's the inflection point. Both Sterling Ventures and Apex are finalists for that government contract. The same contract they so desperately need. I've prepared, I've planned, I've secured the lead position. The revelation is coming. The mask is about to fall. My daily interactions with Gavin and Ethan were a study in controlled amusement. Yesterday, Gavin called, complaining about Apex's aggressive pricing. He didn't recognize the company, of course. They're undercutting us at every turn, Olivia. It's infuriating. I offered a sympathetic hum, internally calculating the profit margin that would make his head spin. I smiled, saying, the market is tough. They see me as a slightly above average consultant. I'm actually their main competitor. The core of Apex Innovations is built on a foundation of secrecy. I own 80% of the company, the other 20% split amongst carefully vetted partners. My holding company, Reed Global Holdings, is a phantom entity, the true parent company behind Apex. It manages a portfolio of investments, controlling stakes in 5 other tech startups, real estate holdings in 3 major cities, and a diversified stock portfolio exceeding $500 million. I have a private jet, a sprawling estate in the Hamptons, and a fleet of luxury cars. I drive a hybrid sedan to work, the ultimate disguise. My team, hand-picked and fiercely loyal, is comprised of the best in the business. We operate under a strict code of confidentiality. My chief technology officer, Sarah Chen, a brilliant mind I poached from a rival firm, manages our AI-driven threat detection system. Our chief financial officer, Marcus Bell, a former Goldman Sachs executive, handles the vast financial empire. They know the truth. They understand the stakes. Sterling Ventures' revenue last year was $80 million. Apex's, $800 million. Their profit margin, 5%. Mine, 35%. They are hemorrhaging market share. Apex Innovations is on track to double in size next year. The government contract is worth over $200 million annually. Securing it would cement Apex's position as the industry leader. I had been working behind the scenes, meticulously crafting a proposal that was far superior to Sterling Ventures. I'd already had several back-channel communications with the government officials involved. The outcome was inevitable. During brunch with Gavin and Ethan, they spent half an hour dissecting their proposal. I listened intently, nodding at all the right moments. "I'm sure you'll do great," I said with a genuine smile. The industry conference. The grand ballroom, the day of reckoning, the tension building. I could feel it, the buzz in the air. The anticipation. I had meticulously crafted my speech. I knew exactly what I would say. I knew exactly what I would do. I could almost taste it. The sweet, satisfying taste of victory. The time for the reveal was near. The moment was coming. The industry conference loomed. The Apex Innovations booth was strategically positioned, a sleek black monolith amidst the beige and blue of the other exhibitors. I'd spent weeks on the design, ensuring it exuded both cutting-edge innovation and understated power. No flashy graphics, no gimmicks, just pure, unadulterated technological prowess reflected in the polished steel and minimalist screens. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, proposal finalized, ready for deployment. I replied with a single emoji, a clenched fist. That evening, I attended the pre-conference cocktail reception. Gavin and Ethan were there, their faces flushed with a combination of nervous energy and false bravado. They were surrounded by a small group of sycophants, each vying for a moment of their attention. I spotted them from across the room, Gavin gesturing wildly, Ethan nodding sagely. They hadn't seen me yet. I subtly maneuvered through the crowd, a ghost in the swirling mass of tech executives. I needed to see them. I needed to feel their proximity. I paused near the bar, ordering a club soda. The bartender, recognizing me from the registration desk, offered a knowing smile. He was one of the few who knew. As I sipped my drink, I noticed a small, almost insignificant detail. Gavin was wearing a tie, a garish, outdated silk tie emblazoned with the Sterling Ventures logo. It was a relic from the past, a symbol of their outdated thinking. Ethan, surprisingly, was wearing a watch a beautiful Patek Philippe gift from their father before he died. It was a symbol of the past. I walked towards them. The anticipation was a physical weight in my chest. My palms were damp. I could almost feel the heat radiating from them, a mix of anxiety and anticipation. I knew the conference schedule. I knew their presentation time. I knew the judging panel. I had their proposal. I had everything. All the pieces of the puzzle were in place. I walked past them, then turned. "Gavin, Ethan, fancy meeting you here." Their heads snapped up. Gavin's practiced smile faltered, his eyes widening slightly. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Olivia," Gavin stammered, visibly startled. "What are you doing here?" I offered a perfectly innocent smile. "Networking, just like everyone else." I let my eyes drift toward the Sterling Ventures booth, visible just across the room. And of course, keeping an eye on the competition. The air crackled. They knew they had to. "Well," Ethan said, his voice strained, "we should probably get going. Big presentation tomorrow." "Oh, I know," I replied, my voice calm, almost serene. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I walked away, back to my booth, back to my team. Back to the final preparations. The next day, the Sterling Ventures presentation would begin. Then, it would be my turn. The grand ballroom was filling. The time had come. It was time to make my entrance. The Sterling Ventures board meeting. A hushed anticipation filled the room. The air, thick with the scent of expensive cologne and nervous sweat, vibrated with unspoken tension. Gavin and Ethan, their faces a mask of forced confidence, stood at the podium, ready to deliver their presentation. The presentation that was, unbeknownst to them, utterly pointless. I entered the room, a ripple of murmurs following my wake. Heads swiveled. Gavin's smug grin faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. Ethan's jaw dropped. The room's collective breath hitched. I wasn't announced. I didn't need to be. My presence alone was enough. "Good morning," I said, my voice echoing in the cavernous space, calm and steady. I strolled towards the front of the room, my heels clicking against the polished floor. "I understand we're here to discuss the future of Sterling Ventures." Gavin's eyes narrowed. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" I met his gaze, a hint of amusement playing on my lips. I'm here as a stakeholder. And more importantly, as the CEO of Apex Innovations. The words hung in the air, a grenade detonating in a silent room. A collective gasp swept through the board. The carefully constructed facade of Sterling Ventures, the illusion of their competence, began to crumble. Gavin's face turned a mottled shade of red. Ethan, his face ashen, stumbled backward, knocking over a glass of water. A ripple of whispers surged through the room, a symphony of disbelief and shock. The board members, once dismissive, now swiveled their heads between me and the brothers, their expressions a mixture of confusion and calculation. Apex Innovations, Gavin sputtered, his voice cracking. That upstart company, the one undercutting us? I allowed myself a small, almost imperceptible smile. The very same. I gestured towards the screen, where the Apex Innovations logo, sleek and imposing, now dominated the room. The logo, a visual representation of my hidden empire, was a testament to the past years of hard work. You built Apex? Ethan finally managed, his voice barely a whisper. The weight of the revelation settled heavily on his shoulders. Yes, I replied, my voice unwavering. I did. I proceeded to calmly and methodically dismantle their presentation. I pointed out the outdated technologies, the flawed strategies, the lack of innovation. I revealed their declining market share, their dwindling profits, and the critical flaws in their government contract proposal. I exposed their blind spots, their weaknesses, their utter incompetence. I did not gloat. I simply laid out the facts, letting the evidence speak for itself. The board members, once skeptical, began to shift in their seats, their expressions hardening. They were no longer looking at Gavin and Ethan with respect, but with a mixture of disappointment and contempt. They were now looking at me. As you can see, I continued, Apex Innovations is in a unique position to revitalize Sterling Ventures, to bring it into the 21st century. I paused, letting the words sink in. I am here to acquire Sterling Ventures, and to lead it. The room erupted. A cacophony of gasps, whispers, and panicked denials filled the air. Gavin's face was a mask of pure fury. Ethan, overwhelmed, seemed on the verge of collapse. The carefully constructed world they had built, the world where they were the successful sons of a successful father, was crumbling around them. This is impossible. Gavin roared, slamming his fist on the table. This is a hostile takeover. I met his gaze, my expression unyielding. Not at all. It is a strategic business decision, one that will benefit all involved. The immediate aftermath was a blur of legal wrangling and corporate maneuvering. The board, eager to save face, sided with me. Gavin and Ethan were stripped of their authority, their positions rendered obsolete. Their carefully cultivated power, gone in an instant. I offered them roles within the newly merged company. Gavin, the head of business development, a role where his charisma could be utilized rather than his mismanagement. Ethan, a strategic advisor, leveraging his years of industry experience. It was a gesture of mercy, a chance to redeem themselves, to contribute in a meaningful way. They accepted, their pride bruised, their egos shattered. The shift in power was absolute, a seismic event that reverberated through the entire organization. The boardroom, once their dominion, was now mine. The company, once theirs, was now mine. The future of Sterling Ventures, now Apex Innovations, was finally in the right hands. Later in my new office, a space that had once belonged to my father and then to Gavin, I looked out at the Chicago skyline. The city lights twinkled, a reflection of the burning ambition that had driven me for so long. I had rebuilt my life, rewritten my story. I had avenged the betrayal, but true success wasn't just about vindication. It was about legacy. The phone rang. It was Marcus, my CFO. The merger is complete, he said. Sterling Ventures is officially part of Apex Innovations. I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. The journey had been long and arduous, but the end was worth it. The vision was complete. I would honor my father by building a business with real impact. Across the city, the Apex Innovations headquarters stood tall, a beacon of innovation and resilience, a testament to the power of defying expectations. The first week after the acquisition was a whirlwind. The Sterling Ventures employees, initially apprehensive, soon adapted to the changes. Those who had supported Gavin and Ethan's outdated strategies were either reassigned or quietly let go. Those who had been stifled by their leadership, the ones with innovative ideas, suddenly found their voices heard. My office, once a space of quiet ambition, became a hub of activity. The phone rang constantly, a mix of congratulatory calls from industry peers, requests for meetings, and the occasional panicked plea from a competitor. I learned to delegate, trusting Sarah and Marcus to handle the day-to-day operations, freeing me to focus on strategy and vision. Gavin and Ethan's transition was complicated. Gavin, initially resistant, eventually embraced his new role, surprisingly good at attracting new clients. He seemed genuinely motivated to prove himself, a flicker of the drive he'd once possessed, now channeled in a productive direction. He even apologized, albeit a somewhat stilted apology, for the way he had treated me. "I underestimated you, Olivia," he said, his voice tinged with a strange mix of respect and regret. "You always were the smartest one." Ethan, on the other hand, struggled. The weight of his failures and the sudden loss of control seemed to crush him. He became withdrawn, spending hours in his office, staring out the window. He didn't offer any advice, didn't ask to be involved. The watch his father gave him, which he always wore, was now a symbol of his past. One evening, I found him in the lobby of the office. He was alone, staring at the Apex Innovations logo, a silent testament to his loss. "Ethan," I asked softly. He turned, his face etched with weariness. "It's different, isn't it?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I replied, "it is." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and something I couldn't quite decipher. I'm sorry, Olivia, for everything." I understood. It was a long time coming. I nodded. "I know, Ethan." I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. I invited him to dinner. The dinner was uncomfortable, a tense dance of unspoken grievances and hesitant attempts at reconciliation. We spoke about our father and the legacy he had left behind. We spoke about the company and the future we could build together. By the end of the meal, there was a fragile sense of connection, a shared understanding of the past, and a glimmer of hope for the future. My relationship with my father, however, remained strained. He was proud of my success, but the sting of his initial betrayal lingered. He had chosen his sons over me, a decision that had shaped the course of my life. A month later, I received a call from him. He was ill, very ill. I rushed to his bedside. He was frail, his once strong hands now thin and translucent. "Olivia," he rasped, his voice weak. I was wrong." Tears welled in my eyes. "I know, Dad." He reached for my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "You built a legacy just like I always wanted," he said, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and regret. You did it right." He smiled, a weak but genuine smile. He died a few days later. The funeral was a somber affair. Gavin and Ethan stood by my side, offering their support. It was a moment of unity, a shared acknowledgement of our loss. In the following weeks, I worked to solidify the transition, consolidating the two companies into one. I rebranded Sterling Ventures. I expanded Apex Innovations' reach, securing major government contracts and expanding into new markets. I built a better leadership team, which was made of the people who really understood the vision. One afternoon, months after the board meeting, I was sitting in my office, overlooking the city. Sarah entered, a file in her hand. "We have a new offer on the table," she said. "A major player in the industry wants to acquire Apex Innovations." I paused, considering the offer. It was a significant sum, more than enough to ensure my financial security for life. I could walk away. I looked out the window at the towering Apex Innovations headquarters, a testament to my resilience and a symbol of my father's vision. I smiled. "Thank you, Sarah," I said, "but I'm not interested." The city lights twinkled, a silent promise of the future. The real work was just beginning. The initial euphoria of victory began to fade, replaced by the daily grind of running a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. The constant pressure to perform, the endless meetings, the relentless demands on my time, it was a different kind of burden, but a burden nonetheless. The quiet satisfaction of outmaneuvering Gavin and Ethan had morphed into the complex responsibility of leading hundreds of employees, shaping industry trends, and making decisions that impacted the lives of countless people. My social life underwent a radical shift. The tech community, once closed off, now clamored for my attention. Invitations to exclusive events, requests for interviews, and unsolicited offers of partnership flooded my inbox. I found myself navigating a new world, filled with sycophants and opportunists, a world where genuine connection was often obscured by ulterior motives. I had to learn to discern the real from the fake, the friend from the foe. My relationship with my best friend, Chloe, proved to be a true test. Chloe, who had known me before the secret empire, before the wealth and power, remained a constant source of support and grounding. She didn't care about my success, she cared about me. However, even our friendship was tested. The demands on my time, the constant travel, the sheer exhaustion of my new life made it difficult to maintain the intimacy we once shared. We had a heart-to-heart one evening, a tearful conversation about the changes that were happening and the inevitable distance that was forming. "I'm still here, Olivia," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Just don't forget who you are." Her words were a lifeline, a reminder of the values I was fighting to uphold. The biggest surprise, however, was the unexpected attention from my father's old business partners. They were now eager to collaborate, offering advice and resources. They dismissed my ideas, disregarded my expertise, and now they were suddenly very interested in my opinion. It was a constant reminder of how much things had changed, how the world viewed me differently. I found myself in a position of power, wielding influence I never imagined. I could shape the future of technology, invest in innovative startups, and support causes I believed in. It was exhilarating, but also daunting. The weight of responsibility, the constant pressure to make the right decisions, could be overwhelming. There were moments of profound satisfaction. Seeing the innovative projects come to life, the talented team members thrive, and the positive impact Apex Innovations was having on the world. I established a foundation dedicated to STEM education for girls. I invested in sustainable technology initiatives, creating a legacy that extended beyond financial gain. But there were also challenges. The constant scrutiny, the lack of privacy, the relentless demands on my time. I found myself craving the simple pleasures of life, a quiet evening at home, a long walk in the park, the freedom to be anonymous. There were difficult moments with Gavin and Ethan, despite the shared loss of our father. The dynamic between us remained complex, a delicate dance of respect, resentment, and lingering sibling rivalry. We were no longer rivals, but we were not friends. We were forced to coexist. I tried to be patient, to guide them, to help them find their footing in this new reality. Their failures sometimes felt like my failures. Their successes, a small victory. It was a constant balancing act. One day, I caught Gavin staring at the Apex Innovations logo, the same one that had caused so much turmoil. "It's pretty impressive," he said, his voice subdued. "You really did it, Olivia." I saw a flicker of something new in his eyes, pride. I knew the journey wasn't over. I knew there would be more challenges, more sacrifices, more triumphs. I had rewritten my story, but the next chapter was unwritten. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I was ready. The final resolution wasn't just about acquiring a company. It was about building a legacy, creating something that would outlive me. The next step would be to fully integrate Apex Innovations and expand globally. I could do this. I would do this. But first, I needed to figure out what I wanted the future to look like. It was time to take my father's vision and make it my own. The next chapter was now open. What was gained was a kingdom built on ingenuity, a testament to unwavering resolve. What was lost was a simple life, the anonymity that shielded from the world's gaze, and a degree of the family ties. Success, I learned, is a kaleidoscope, its facets shifting with perspective. It's perception, not just achievement, that defines it. Relationships, like glass, can shatter under pressure, but if tempered by understanding, can be reformed. The cost of secrecy was a prison of my own making, fueled by the desire to prove. The reward? Freedom to forge my own path and to honor the vision. Now I stand at the precipice of a new dawn, the Apex Innovations headquarters a towering monument to defiance, reflecting the sunrise. I see the city, a canvas of dreams and ambition, and I know my story isn't just mine. It is about all of us. Did you ever feel unseen, unheard, undervalued? Did you ever quietly build your own empire, brick by brick, defying the expectations of others? Then this story is yours too.